What's up, everybody? It's John and Eric back for another week of MMA. It's Inside the Clinch, round 45. It's Wednesday evening in New York City. Chilly evening tonight. Eric, how's your day going? How are you managing with this cold?
I hate the cold weather, man. I'm not a fan of the winter. I love the summer. I don't like layering up. I don't like having to stay indoors. I do like the winter sports like snowboarding and shit like that, but outside of that, I'm not really a fan of the cold weather.
I don't really like the cold. Like when it's too cold, I don't like it. I like it like between like the summertime. I like the spring, like nice spring day. That's probably what I like.
Yeah, in New York, we only get that for about a week before summer and a week after the summer, and the rest is just miserable.
Yeah, in New York, it was like 70 degrees like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. So it's just crazy how it was like 30 something yesterday. So New York weather just is retarded.
Yeah, and the wind makes it so much worse.
Yeah, but also we got some very good news this week. Eric landed a new job. So I'd like to publicly congratulate you on that. I know how much you were looking forward to this. And congratulations, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Very excited for this new opportunity and lifestyle change. Uh, yeah, man, I'm excited. I got some great news this week, so I've been in a great mood. Yeah, I'm excited for the next chapter to come.
Well, that's great. We got Eric on a good mood day, good mood
Yes,
week.
sir.
So that's always a good time. I know when Eric's good mooding, he has some good MMA thoughts. So hopefully that will correlate with one another. But we have a lot to discuss on today's episode. So let's hit it.
All right, yeah, we have some UFC Fight Night action that went down this past weekend. Cris Cyborg got another knockout win at Bellator. We got a little bit of news for you guys as well, and then we're going to preview two of the fights on this weekend's Fight Night card, headlined by Miesha Tate versus Caitlin Vieira. So let's start off with Max. He had another decision win this weekend against Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez coming in after a 2-year USADA suspension. He looked great. He looked like he barely had any time out of the octagon. Max Holloway ended up getting the unanimous decision win. He put on another great performance, although I can't say it was his best performance that we've seen. I feel like part of that was a stylistic matchup, just what Yair brings to the table. Ever since that first bell rang, like you just see Yair swinging with everything he had, and he was like trying to take off Max's head. And there were several shots that Yair landed where like I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen Max's head snap back that way before. Like I don't think anyone has hit him like that before. And the guy just showed incredible heart. He had a broken foot, as we saw at the end of the fight.
His foot was a balloon.
His foot was a balloon. But yeah, man, it's incredible the amount of heart that Yair had. He was still fighting back even through the end of the fifth round with a broken foot. Probably knowing that he's down on the cards. So a lot of heart from the guy. And one of my favorite things after this fight is, the friendship and the camaraderie that they shared afterwards. That's honestly one of my favorite things about this sport. So, to see Max Holloway get into the ambulance truck that Yair was in, they, exchanged some more words privately, took a couple of pictures. So all aboard the Blessed Express.
Yeah, you and I spoke about this off air, but Max's performance, you and I kind of agreed that it wasn't his best performance. As you mentioned, the stylistic matchup we thought was a contributing factor to that. Yair just comes from all angles. He just has some like insane out of nowhere kicks, punches. So I feel like that was some elbows too, and I feel like that was something hard for Max to deal with. But as you said, he was getting hit. His head was wobbling back, but he was continuing to move forward and be the Max that everybody knows that he is. So he did win the fight, I thought, pretty dominantly. He did absorb a lot. He, as you could see by the end of the fight with that picture with him and Yair Rodriguez, like just by their facial appearance, you could see what kind of brutal fight that was. But yeah, it was an incredible fight. Some people are saying it was fight of the year. I don't know about that, considering we just had Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler. But yeah, it was a phenomenal fight, and it poses the question: who's next for Max Holloway? Because we know the situation with Volkanovski, the current champion. He has 2 wins over Holloway. Second one, some people think that Max should have taken it, but nevertheless, it's 2-0 Volkanovski. So, what's next for Holloway?
Yeah, it's a good question. Everyone was expecting the winner of this fight, regardless of who it was, to be the next guy to fight for the belt against Volkanovski. Obviously, like you just mentioned, Max is 0-2 against the champ, although the second fight was razor thin. Look, Holloway probably would have got this title shot regardless if he took this Yair fight or not. So I just gotta say, like, I like the fact that he took the fight, that he wants to stay active, that he shows, like, that he's trying to fight. Holloway did show grappling and wrestling, like takedown attempts, which is something he hasn't had to do in the past. Again, just the stylistic matchup here was different. But look,
Hey,
the champ is,
he landed 3 takedowns, just to what you were saying.
yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that's a career high because, again, Max Holloway doesn't really go for the takedowns. But as far as what's next for him, I mean, who is it outside of Volkanovski? Volkanovski was on Ariel Helwani show earlier this week, and he was saying how, Max is kind of beating around the bush and saying he kind of will do whatever the UFC says. And look, I get it from Max's side. Like, he's had the belt for mad long. He kind of feels like he won that last fight. And, he's sure that fight will come back. If it's not this fight, then it's gonna be the fight after or the fight after that. Like, he is expecting that trilogy fight down the line. So I feel like he's not pushing it as hard. But Volkanovski seems to be, I guess, a little upset of how nonchalant Holloway is about the whole thing.
The thing about this is that Max, he fought Volkanovski twice, as you mentioned. He believes that he won the second fight, but when there are other people like Conor McGregor walking in front of a TV stand to Max Holloway being called out by the announcer, like I would assume that's kind of intriguing for a fighter. It's a huge fight. It's Conor McGregor. It's going to be the biggest payday of his career. And you know how Max has been here for a very long time. He's a superstar in the UFC, but fighting someone like Conor McGregor is just going to put him to the next level. And especially if he beats Conor McGregor after he lost him several years ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that whole Conor walking back and forth in front of the TV thing was really freaking weird. I don't know what medication he's been on for his leg pain, but he needs to watch his dosages. Look,
Yeah.
I think it's crazy. I was thinking about this earlier this week. I'm actually glad you brought her up. So it's crazy how people are in conversation about Conor fighting someone like Max Holloway. And literally a few days ago, everyone was talking about someone like Conor fighting someone like Khamzat Chimaev, which is like complete opposite size, like opponents. You know what I mean? One's a skinnier, scrawny guy. One's a welterweight that's actually a middleweight and cuts down. Like, it's just massive.
Everybody's just calling out Conor these days. Michael Chandler wants a piece of Conor.
It's an easy paycheck these days.
Khamzat
It's not what it was
Chimaev,
before.
Usman is in the news about it as well. So there are a lot of people that want to fight Conor McGregor, and there's no secret to that. It's the payday, it's the publicity that they're gonna get from fighting Conor McGregor. So I feel like personally, how much I'm not a fan of like fighting the same person like 12 times. Like the fight with Volkanovski, if it were to happen, I'm sure it'll be a very exciting fights as the last 2 fights were. But I kind of want to see Max fight Conor McGregor. It's like a selfish thing that I want. I think that Max Holloway, he lost him when he was younger, but now he's a completely different fighter. And as is Conor McGregor, they're both grown-ups now, and I would love to see how that fight plays out.
Yeah, I think Max can easily beat Conor in a rematch.
I don't know about that. I don't know about easily or not,
dude,
easily,
Max,
because this is a different. It's a different stylistic matchup. Because
yeah, but if you look at the first fight, Max Holloway didn't do complete. I mean, most of the fight was on the ground, but like that was baby Max Holloway. That was literally one of his first fights in the UFC where he didn't know shit. Max has evolved so much since that point, and what we've seen with Poirier in the Conor trilogy, like Conor hasn't necessarily evolved the same amount his opponents have. We've seen Dustin Poirier evolve tremendous amount, and I think Max Holloway has evolved even more than Dustin Poirier did over that time.
But the thing is that Conor McGregor, I feel like he's bigger than Max Holloway is. He's fought at 170 before. Max Holloway is smaller, and also Conor McGregor. I feel like it's a style. So Max Holloway is not going to try to wrestle Conor McGregor, and I feel like Conor McGregor does have good enough wrestling defense to to defend himself against someone like Max Holloway. So I feel like it will be an exciting fight, and it'll give Max Holloway the opportunity to avenge his loss.
So look, if you think about it, what's Conor's biggest path to victory? It's a knockout. Holloway has a hell of a chin. He's never been knocked out. He's only had one loss that was by finish, which is a submission, but the guy's never been knocked out. And if Conor can get Max out of there in the first round or two, we know Max's volume and pace is just going to be way too much for Conor. It's going to be something that Conor never felt before from any of his opponents. Like we've seen what he's done with the other boxing opponents, right? We've seen what we've done with Volkanovski. Brian Ortega, wasn't a boxer, but like he, is most predominantly a stand-up fight. And then we saw the fight with Calvin Kattar. You know what I mean? It's just, I think Max is too much for him these days.
Yes,
he is. Conor is bigger, but I think Holloway's just too much experience for him.
I don't know. I don't know if you could put experience into that because Conor McGregor is a phenomenal striker. You know how good of a striker Conor McGregor is. I know that he's
I
old.
know how good he was.
Yeah, okay, that's fair to say. And he has a completely broken leg right now. So I don't know what type of Conor is even going to come back. So maybe this talk is like irrelevant because I feel like Conor McGregor can't come back being better than he was before. Like that's not in the realm of possibility. Conor McGregor is going to come back either being similar to what he was before or worse. Like coming back from injury like that, it's not easy. And I feel like that's going to play a big role in a big factor in his comeback.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not interested to see Conor back, as I've said before.
I'm interested to see Max
Look,
Holloway versus Conor McGregor. That's the fight
that
should
is the
make.
fight I'm interested. Honestly, either the Holloway rematch or I kind of want to see. I really want to see Conor versus Tony. Those are the only two fights that I'm really interested in seeing Conor fight.
I'm down to see that fight because two legends of the division, let them scrap. It never happened before. But yeah, so who are you gonna give Max Holloway to? There's another person. There's Arnold Allen. He's on a 6-fight winning streak right now. I believe he's ranked number 5 or 6. But would Max Holloway take that fight? I don't think so.
I mean, I don't see why. Like he won't benefit, but there were talks of him moving up to lightweight to fight the lightweight belt. He has a win over Charles Oliveira. So look, we've seen Holloway try to get the lightweight belt before. It didn't work out against Poirier.
But we see what happened when Max Holloway fought Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, but it's different. First of all, stylistically.
Yeah, it's different.
Like
but
most importantly,
I think that Poirier is gonna beat Oliveira.
Yeah, we will see, brother. We will see.
We'll see about that. What do you got on that fight?
I don't know. I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm gonna regret it.
I don't know. Give me a fucking name.
Oliveira. I think I'm gonna go with
Oliveira
just because of how he's been surprising everybody lately and how he just flies under the radar, and I think he's not respected enough. So I'm gonna back Charles Oliveira.
You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say that I'm gonna agree with Justin Gaethje on this one. I think that Oliveira, he is really good. He's really technically good. He's a really good fighter, but he has no dog in him. Because I feel like when it gets hard, he's not gonna be the one to like fall asleep. He's gonna tap out, like tap machine. And
you don't know what you're
Dustin
talking
Poirier.
about.
What the fuck are you talking about? Dustin Poirier. That's like the worst insult you could tell somebody, you fucking casual. Dustin Poirier, I feel like he has heart. He's a dog. So I feel like putting him.
It's a different style, bro. You can't compare.
I know this is. I know. Of course you can compare. They're gonna fight. Of course you can compare it. And I think that I don't know. I think Dustin Poirier is very well rounded. He's good on the ground. He's a good striker. And yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Dustin Poirier, and so I guess that's why I'm going with him. So perhaps one of the biggest stories on this card was regarding this next fight with Ben Rothwell, the veteran, versus Marcus Rogelio de Lima. So de Lima wins the fight in 32 seconds via TKO, but it was a very untraditional TKO stoppage. We kind of saw Herb Dean grab Lima's hips. I don't know. He was saying stop. That's what Lima was saying. You're probably better explaining this story. Like, what the hell happened? What was Herb Dean doing?
So look, it was a pretty short fight. 30 seconds in, De Lima rushes Rothwell with a bunch of punches, and Rothwell kind of goes out. And if you look at Herb Dean, he's kind of hesitant whether or not to break up the fight or not. And he's kind of like, debating whether or not to pull the trigger. And then he touches like both fighters, but like touches them for a second and kind of lets the action continue, which was when Rothwell kind of gained consciousness again, started to react a little bit. But then like De Lima's looking up at Herb Dean. He's like, I'm not hitting him. You said stop. And then Herb Dean is like, oh yeah. I told you guys to stop. It was just like a very weird situation.
So first of all, you said the story way better than I did. So good for you on that. But what De Lima said was that he didn't feel Herb Dean touching him. He said that he heard Herb Dean yelling stop. So it was like a confusing situation. I'm not really sure what happened.
Look, this isn't the first time this happened. Aside from the bad stoppage that Herb has had lately, we saw him do this in the Amanda Ribas fight. You know what I mean? She kind of got knocked out, kind of dazed. He kind of touched one of the girls to kind of Herb Dean he hesitated to stop the fight, so he touched one of the girls' like shoulders, and then he kind of let the action continue where Ribas took a few more punches, which she really didn't have to take, and then he kind of stepped in and stopped it later on, which is weird. And Dan Hardy, he tweeted out Herb Dean strikes again because he's someone that's been extremely, extremely critical the Herb Dean stoppage. And I think that's one of the main reasons he got kicked out of the UFC is for being so critical of him.
Yeah, that's just what I was gonna say. It's been evident that Herb Dean is not the same Herb Dean as he was in the past, and people are saying that could be attributed to like when referees mess up or like they didn't stop a fight in time or they went on too long. I feel like people are saying that because of that, Herb Dean may be a little bit hesitant because of that. But I don't know. People say that being a referee is one of the hardest jobs. I do agree that it's a hard job, but that type of mistake is not acceptable.
Being a judge is extremely hard. I feel like being a referee,
I think being
it's
a
not
referee
easy, but it's much easier to be a referee than a judge, in my opinion. Because
I don't know, because
referee,
it's like you're live in the fight. Like you have to
right, but you're just responsible for making sure they're following the rules and stopping you when it needs to be stopped. It's not like you need to be, counting how many punches are landed, takedown. You don't have to keep track of as many things. I feel like you just need to make sure they're following the rules and stop it when it needs
regardless of that, whatever Herb Dean did, it was obviously wrong. Like a referee should not do that, especially a high caliber referee like Herb Dean. I'm not saying that the UFC should pull Herb Dean. I think we should ride with him, give him a few more chances, but that's definitely unacceptable. But at least the result of the fight was the way it was supposed to be. And Rothwell lost to Marcus de Lima, 30-second TKO. So congratulations to Marcus de Lima.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a very quick fight, 30-second flurry of punches, and he got the job done. Herb Dean, there was a time when Herb Dean was considered one of the best referees, along with Big John McCarthy and Dan Mergliata and those guys. But I don't feel comfortable throwing his name in there anymore. He's been having a lot of, I don't want to say mistakes, but a lot of
mistakes,
less than accurate calls lately.
That's 100% accurate. But let's talk about Marcus de Lima. He's only the second man to stop Rothwell, and that says a lot because Rothwell's been in the game for a very long time, and he's just only the second man to stop him with strikes. Just to correct myself. So impressive performance by de Lima, kind of overshadowed by Herb Dean's incompetence. But as I said, I want to give Herb Dean a few more chances. He's done so many right calls in his career. He's done his fair share to give him a few more chances. So I hope he gets his shit together because his calls lately have not been acceptable for sure.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a good point. So I heard another reporter say that as well earlier this week. He has had millions of correct calls, and obviously when something like this happens, no one ever pays attention to those. But it's the mistakes that really have the larger impacts that could lead to injury or just damage that a fighter doesn't need to take. So look, like we said, he was the gold standard at one time. There's no reason he can't get his shit together and be more confident in his decision-making process. So we hope for
something with his confidence. Like he needs to see a sports psychologist. I know he's not an athlete, but there's something with his confidence because I'm assuming he doesn't have like dementia or anything like that. So like, why is he making such unconventional calls? Like that's kind of like a sign of dementia. It's like, oh, where am I? What am I doing? I'm a referee right now. Like, I don't know. I think that his brain is normal, and I think it's just his confidence level. And I feel like that's highly impacted by the media. The media is in his head, in the referee's head, in the judges' heads, and they don't want to make a wrong call. So like they're like, oh, should I stop it? Should I not stop it? And like it results in decisions like this.
All right, so let's move on along the card. The fight before that was Felicia Spencer versus Leia Letson. Very dominant one-sided performance by Felicia Spencer. She's not the hardest puncher. She doesn't have the most power in her hands, but she does hit you with volume, both with punches and elbows. And I like her. One thing I really, really admire about her that I feel like most people don't notice is her head positioning when she's grappling. If you ever pay attention, often she has her opponent along the cage. Not only is she kind of working with her hand, she's also working with her head. Her head, she's, pushing against the chest or pushing her opponent's face away. So it's like she's using that as an additional like limb and additional tool as she's grappling. And I feel like that's been one of the subtle keys to her success that maybe not as many people have been catching. But very dominant performance. She got a TKO stoppage at 4 minutes, 25 seconds of the third round. So it's very close to going to the decision, but we did not see her slow down. I think she had a career high of strikes in this fight. So congratulations to her. 227 significant total strikes landed in that fight.
Yeah, I actually did notice what you were referring to regarding the hip position. Her clinch game overall is really good. She's one of the best girls in the division, if that says anything. She was on a 2-fight skid, losing to Nunes and Dumont. So those girls are kind of like the top echelon in the division. So losing to them, so I would place her maybe right below them. But Letson, she hasn't fought since 2018. Uh, in 2018, she won a fight via split decision. That was her UFC debut, and she's been out from the UFC because of a thyroid and heart issue, apparently due to overtraining. So she's been dealing with some health concerns. I don't know if that impacted her performance, but I feel like it was a dominant and clear victory for Felicia Spencer.
I don't know if it was a stylistic matchup, but Leah Letson didn't really look like she belonged in there with Felicia Spencer. Felicia, I don't really consider her, the top of the division by any means.
I think
She's
she's like
good, but
middle.
yeah, she's right. She's like a top 10, I feel like.
She's middle
But
class,
Leah Letson, I don't know why they matched her
middle
up.
class citizen.
Different level, brother. Different level.
Different level. Yeah, so it's like we have Felicia Spencer, we have people like Norman Dumont, and then we have Megan Anderson is in division as well. But like division is not, it's kind of stagnant because we have someone as dominant as Amanda Nunes, and like they're talking about not having the featherweight division in the UFC in the long run. So I don't really know why this fight was in the main card if they're planning on removing the division altogether. So that was something that I noticed. But not the most exciting fight, but definitely impressive win for Felicia Spencer. Very dominant performance.
Yeah, look, like I said, I don't consider her the top of the division. Her and Norma Dumont might not be a bad fight, but I feel like Norma would be
She
too much
lost
for
to
her.
she lost to
She
Norma.
did. Okay. So yeah, look, she's not gonna do a single thing to Nunez. Like it's just not even worth setting up that matchup. She's tough, she's good, but she's not, like you said, middle class. She's not at the top of the division. I feel like top 10-ish is where she kind of belongs. Um, top 5, maybe, depending who's on that roster, but definitely not top 3.
Yeah, they need to recruit some better girls. Like I don't know, like there have to be girls that are good at MMA. Like there's so many people in this world. MMA is getting bigger, and like I don't know why we don't have better female MMA athletes. And I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that, but it's kind of true. Like UFC, the biggest MMA organization in the world, and it's so stagnant with Valentina Shevchenko in one division, and then we have Amanda Nunes. Before that, it was Cris Cyborg. So like there's just these few girls that are like dominating division, and like I don't know. I feel like I'm not gonna criticize the UFC because I have no idea what it takes to find these people, but I feel like they're somewhere out there and they should be found because I
Yeah, I
don't know.
agree.
I would love to see better competition.
I agree. I definitely think they're out there. It's just a matter of finding them. If as far as I know, I think it's Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, the two matchmakers. The two of them are solely responsible for recruiting. Like they actually go to events and fights to scout and recruit fighters, and it's not something that they delegate to other people, from what I've heard,
And they
in the
do a great
media.
job. And they do a great job.
Yeah, but think about it. Between the two people to go around the world scouting people, recruiting people, matching people up, I can't imagine what that job is like, but I'm sure it's mad fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it is a very fun job. And they're doing a really good job. Like the UFC is at the best state it's ever been, making the most money apparently that it's ever has. So they're doing something right.
All right, let's move along. We had Miguel Baeza losing to Khaos Williams. It was a bit of a controversial stoppage.
I don't think so.
What were your thoughts on the fight?
The fight was competitive. Miguel Baeza, I felt like the knockout was coming. Well, the TKO was coming. Chaos Williams. The thing about Williams, I think he's a good fighter, but I do think that he has a ceiling. Like he's very powerful. He hits very hard, but he's just not his striking level, his overall MMA IQ and level. I feel like are not that high up there. I feel like he's winning these fights because of his power and because of his athleticism. But I feel like when he's going to get to the upper echelon guys, I feel like it's going to be a challenge for him. But very impressive win, third round. Controversial. I don't want to say it's controversial. Some people, what do you want for the person to do? Die? He fell down. He passed out for like a split second, and the referee stopped the fight. I thought it was a good stoppage. I don't know.
So this was, I think, besides the main event, this may have been the fight of the night. Very, very exciting fight. Both guys for all 3 rounds were going at each other with bombs. There's straight power shots, winding up, trying to take each other's heads off. The first round ended pretty interestingly. Towards the end of the first round, they got to the ground, and Miguel Baeza looked like he almost had a leg lock in. Williams was able to survive and land some big shots. Back and forth second round. And in the third round, Khaos, like you said, he dropped Baeza with a big shot. And I don't know, like looking at the video, I don't want to say that Baeza went out. Like he didn't look like he got knocked out, but his feet definitely went out from under him. He just dropped like it was like his lights were out, but like he moved his hands and started to protect himself immediately. So that just makes me assume that like he didn't go out. Like, his legs shot out.
He didn't completely go out, but there was like a split second reboot.
Right. Yes.
He lost balance. He lost balance and he lost coordination.
Look, I mean, I'm not upset with the stoppage. I can kind of understand why he was, but like, what was going to happen? Worst, like, best case, Williams would land like 5 more punches and that's it. Like, there wasn't much of a, I guess, another way to stop that fight. Like, it had to get stopped there.
I think if you get knocked down like that, I think the fight should be over. I don't know. I think that it was more than enough time for him to like. No, I feel like if you get knocked down like that, I feel like the fight should be over. Like, he's gonna get knocked down. He's gonna get hit with a few more strikes, and he's gonna.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Suffer more damage. But on the other hand, there are people that get knocked down and somehow get up and like.
Chris Lieben.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know, but like they're fighters, but they're also people at the end of the day. And something that Khaos Williams said is live to fight another day. Like there's other fights. The most important thing is the fighter's health. And like this is just a sport. We have to remember that. I know how much fun it is for us to watch it, but it's just a sport at the end of the day. And I personally don't want to see these fighters get hurt with unnecessary devastating hits when it could be avoided.
So let me ask you, there were 2 groin strikes in the fight. Khaos Williams landed the groin strikes on Baeza. Do you think that played a factor in the way the fight finished or not really?
I think it might have, because I feel like those, I don't think it diminished Baeza's performance per se, but I think that it kind of disrupted the momentum of the fight. Like there was 2 of them, as you mentioned, and I feel like each time they stopped, like the momentum just kind of like stops and you have to reboot and everything like has to start again. So I feel like that could have affected it. But as I said, I saw the hit coming sometime in the fight because Khaos Williams hits really hard and he connected beautifully. And that was the end of the night for Baeza. Yeah, but anyway, big win for Khaos Williams. I don't know if you know this, but Khaos Williams got his high school degree while he was in jail. And do you know why he was in jail?
I think it was for street fighting, wasn't it?
No, he was in jail for selling cocaine. So he's in jail for selling cocaine, getting his high school diploma. He would love to have a walkout with Meek Mill sometime in the future. That's just some things I read on him, which I thought were very interesting. But coming from jail, coming from selling cocaine, and knocking out Baeza, knocking out Abdul Razak Al Hassan. So big things coming for Khaos Williams. But as I said, I do think that he has a ceiling. And once he gets to the upper echelon of the division, he's going to have a hard time.
Yeah, I agree. Look, the guy has power, like incredible power. But I don't think it's too late for it. Look, when you have this power, it just takes time and technique to perfect it. So I feel like with the right training, with the right coaching, that is something that he could polish up because the guy has just devastating hands.
Yeah, he's been fighting for a very long time, but not like he hasn't been training martial arts for a very long time. I feel like when you do it at an older age, I feel like it's harder to get all those moves down, like with muscle memory and all that stuff. I feel like it's different when you're a little older, but bright future for him for sure.
So to start off the main event on this past weekend's card, we had Sang Yadong knocking out Julio Arce in round 2, 1:35 in the second round. Sang Yadong, he looked very confident in there. He looked like he knew he was the man with more experience, and he looked like he knew he was the man in control in that ring. His punches, another one with a lot of power and everything he throws. Like he's throwing with intent. Like if he lands, he's trying to take your head off. So he's not just kind of the Max Holloway, Colby Covington kind of volume striker. Like when he's punching you, he's punching to take your head off. And vicious, brutal KO in the second round. So congratulations, Sang Yadong.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to start the main card. It was a head kick followed by punches. The craziest thing about it is that he's only 23 years old, and such a bright future for him coming out of China. So many prospects coming out of China lately. So I'm excited to see Song Yadong progress through the division. I know that he's going to have many impressive wins, many highlight wins as he did on Saturday night, and I'm very excited for him. So Eric's one fighter that I was really impressed with on this card was Joel Alvarez. He got a first round TKO stoppage over Thiago Moises. The fight was a complete domination, man. And this kid, Joel Alvarez, I feel like he's the real deal. He's the real deal, and he's coming for the division. Did you happen to watch the fight?
Yeah, I saw that one. One of the big things that stuck out to me was the size difference. Now, I know Thiago Moises is a little bit on the smaller side for lightweight, but still, like, Joel Alvarez is big for that division. Like, he was towering over
He
him.
missed
And he
weight
was
too.
long.
He missed weight.
That I didn't know. That could be a problem because, he's not going to have the same size difference at welterweight. But if he can get his stuff together and stay at lightweight, I mean, he's a pretty big guy, and his elbows so devastating. It was crazy. The elbows he was landing on Moises, by the end of the fight, he cut him open. Yeah, he
annihilated him. Jinx. He annihilated him, man. And this kid is 19-2. All 19 of his wins are by stoppage. I believe he has 16 submission wins and 3 wins by either TKO or KO. So this kid has a really bright future, and they're comparing him. They mentioned this on the broadcast, which I thought was interesting, but they started comparing him to Islam because Islam recently had a fight with Thiago Moises, and it was a competitive, I wouldn't say competitive fight, but Islam wasn't able to take him out the way that Joel Alvarez was. So does that say anything? I don't know. I feel like Islam Makhachev is going to have an appropriate game plan if they were to fight, but nevertheless, Joel Alvarez, a stunning prospect, and I'm very excited to see what type of damage he imposes on this division.
So you took the question right out of my notes. I was actually going to ask you the implications of him finishing Moises so fast. Obviously, the main difference that allowed that to happen was just, again, stylistic matchup. Joel Alvarez is a little bit more explosive. He got the elbows. Islam, on the other hand, he's kind of like a slower game plan. He'll take you down. He'll Dagestani handcuff you, and then he'll
father plan you.
Jinx again. So look, I don't know. You and I are both very big Islam Makhachev fans. I don't know if Joel Alvarez quite has the experience to be in there with Islam, but I think that's definitely a matchup to keep eye of over the next couple of years.
I'm gonna tell you something that's a little interesting, maybe a little racist at the same time, but his 2 losses in MMA come to his loss in the UFC, which was, I believe, his debut, was to Damir Ismagulov. And then his other loss, which was in M1 Challenge 56 in 2015, was to Ali Abdul Hakhilov. So he's losing to the Ovs of the world. So I don't know what that says, but it's Islam Makhachev. He's an EV. So, but they come from a similar place, and those people give him a hard time. So if that says anything about it, I think it should. I don't know.
That's a very good observation. But look, I agree. You agree. Khabib agrees. Islam is the best in the world right now, as he said in the interviews. Best in the world, not number 5, best in the world. So, like I said, I'm going to be keeping an eye on that matchup because it's definitely something I feel like their paths will inevitably cross in the future. So just keep an eye out for that one. So let me just read the results real quick on the remainder of the card. Andrea Lee got a KO finish at the very end of round 2, 5 minutes of round 2 against Cynthia Calvillo. Sean Woodson got a KO finish over Colin Anglin. Courtney Casey defeated Liana Jujua via unanimous decision. Mark Jacasey versus Mark Jacasey versus Rafael Alves. Alves won via first round submission. Da Jung knocked out Kennedy Nezuchku at 3 minutes into the first round. So pretty exciting card from top to bottom. I unfortunately missed the first half of this, but from what I've heard, this was a great card from start to finish. I can say that the second half was amazing. All those fights were exciting. So great card. Another phenomenal card for the UFC once again.
Yeah, UFC Vegas 42, the most KOs in an event. It's tied for the most with 8, and with the most finishes in 2021, which was 9 finishes. So definitely one of the more exciting cards of the year. And it's like a low key card. Like, who would have thought that this card was gonna have so many finishes? But I feel like the smaller cards, that's what they do. And great card.
All right, so we also had some Bellator action this past weekend. Cris Cyborg, she got another huge knockout under her belt. What did you think of her performance at Bellator this past weekend?
Her performance at Bellator this past weekend was similar to her Bellator performances her past 4 fights. She's 4-0 in Bellator. She defeats Seda Kavanaugh, however you pronounce her name. Um, Cris Cyborg is just one of the best female fighters in the world, aside from Amanda Nunes, who was able to defeat her, was able to knock her out. But Cris Cyborg is just on another level. I don't think that anybody on the Bellator roster even poses a threat. I know that Kat Zingano is tweeting at her right now, and Kayla Harrison had some comments about her, which we're going to play in a second. But Cris Cyborg, I feel like she's just too good for the division, and I know who came to this fight and thought that Cris Cyborg was going to lose. If anyone said that they did, then you're lying. So I don't know. I think that Cris Cyborg is just she's in a good spot right now.
So I kind of take this back, but one thing I have been saying or thinking rather about Cyborg over the last couple of months is that Cyborg is slowing down a bit. You know, she's not as explosive and not as scary as she was when she was in the UFC. But look, she proved me wrong. She just put Kevin on a different planet, put her lights out, quick fight in and out of there. You know, I feel like we had the same exact conversation last time, but like, what is there to do for Cris Cyborg at Bellator? Like, it's just one. I mean, it's going to be one knockout after knockout after knockout. She's just going to drop them all like bowling pins, one after the other.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, so Kat Zingano, former title contender in the UFC, is calling her out. She tweeted, "Send me your location" or something like that, and she tagged Scott Coker. And then Cris Cyborg replied saying January in LA, or as our boys in Harlem like to say, LA. So she wants to fight Kat Zingano in LA in January. So maybe that's a fight that's going to happen in the future. And also Kayla Harrison. Let's talk about Kayla Harrison. So she's been, she was front in the front row watching this fight, and she said that she was impressed by Cris Cyborg's performance, and it would be an absolute honor for her to fight Cris Cyborg. Let's play the audio.
I'm here with Kayla Harrison, two-time PFL champion. We are here at the Bellator 271 card. We just saw Cyborg defend her title. Kayla, first impressions?
Yeah, I mean, my first impression was she's not as big as I thought she was going to be. But all joking aside, obviously Cyborg is a trailblazer in the sport. You know, she's a pioneer, she's a trailblazer, and the only problem with that is I'm on this trail now. So, yeah. But it was great to watch her live. I'm super impressed, as always. She puts on a hell of a show, and I got nothing but respect for her.
Yeah, so I talked to Scott Coker, who's right here just behind you, yesterday, and he was telling me he was going to say hello and have a little chat with you.
We did.
Did you guys chat?
We did.
How did that go?
It went good. It went good.
Yeah. And you were featured here on the broadcast, clearly as Cyborg had her post-fight interview. Any interest in fighting her? I mean, I know you want to...
Of course. Listen, she's one of the greatest of all time. You know, I don't care which way you slice it. You can't deny her greatness. And I've made it no secret that I want to go down as the greatest. So in order to do that, you got to beat the greatest. And she's one of those people. So for me, the greatest compliment I can give to Cris Cyborg is that I want to fight her. That's the greatest honor I could say, is that I want to share the cage with you for 25 hard minutes.
All right, so a lot going on there. Kayla Harrison is, like we mentioned, a free agent. She's testing out the pool right now. A lot of debate whether she's going to go to Bellator, whether she's going to go to UFC, or stay at the PFL and rack up $1 million check year after year. Obviously, as MMA fans, we want to see Kayla take on the biggest, baddest girls in her weight class that are out there. Obviously, we would rather her go to the UFC, but if she can even go to Bellator, I think that's a step in the right direction for her career.
Yeah, and she said that she wants to fight people like Cris Cyborg, and the only way she's going to fight people like Cris Cyborg if she comes to Bellator or the UFC, that would be another great option for her. But she's a lot of respect shown by Kayla Harrison, a little bit out of her persona. I was kind of shocked to hear her say such nice things. But I feel like that'll be a great fight. I feel like Kayla Harrison, I say this all the time, the girl doesn't lose. I know that Cris Cyborg is tougher than anybody she's ever faced. And I think that Kayla Harrison knows that. And she's going to train properly. She's going to prepare properly. And who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if Kayla Harrison defeats Cris Cyborg. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kayla Harrison defeats anybody in the world because she's just that good.
Yeah. Very, very exciting time to be an MMA fan. Like we've mentioned on the show before, we've known Kayla since we've been competing on the judo circuit. So for us to see someone that we've known back in the day compete at this level is just exciting for us. So we are rooting for her. I definitely think that if she plays her cards right, she definitely has what it takes to beat Cris Cyborg. The biggest difference I think would be, besides the power, is just the experience that Cris Cyborg has, because she's been in there with the best. She's been in there for much longer than Kayla has. But I feel like Kayla, she takes her time more. You know, she executes her plan. If she can strike with you, she'll land some shots on you standing up, but she is able to get the takedown. She is able to put herself in a safe position and just drop bombs on you until either the ref stops it or she gets a submission and makes you tap.
Yeah, she did say that she had good conversation with Scott Coker, if that means anything. But hopefully she makes the right decision. I don't think that she's going to come back to the PFL. That's what Cris Cyborg is saying. Cris Cyborg is saying that she thinks that Kayla Harrison is going to sign with the PFL again. I hope she doesn't. I think she wouldn't, because I feel like at this point in her career, she's already getting older. It's time for her to secure her legacy. And if she wants to be the best in the world, she has to take out the best in the world. As Max Holloway just said, if you want to be blessed, you got to take out blessed or the blessed space. You know what I'm saying? So Kayla Harrison has some important decisions to make, and I hope she makes the right one.
Yeah. So, John, let's move on to the news bits. I just saw some breaking news as we were getting on to record this.
Oh, shit. Inside the clinch, breaking news.
The UFC is finally going to offer Leon Edwards a title shot. So Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards 2 is in the works. They're targeting that for March or April, I believe.
The rematch.
The rematch, yeah. So Leon lost. It was his only loss to Kamaru Usman, the current champ. This was many, many, many years ago. Like I said, I'm very happy that Leon finally got this opportunity. He is by far the most deserving in that division for the title shot. So well deserved. I'm excited for that fight. I don't know if Leon has what it takes to get it done. I wouldn't look. I think Usman is better, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if Leon wins. But if Leon wins, all the haters better shut their mouths, and I don't want to hear any more shit talk about Leon Edwards.
Yeah, just to correct one thing, you said that Leon Edwards only lost to Kamaru Usman. That's he actually has 2 other losses. He's 19-3 in his MMA career.
Got it.
I don't think that he has what it takes to take out Usman, but it'll be a great opportunity for him. For one, he'd be able to avenge his loss. 2, he's going to be, if he wins, he's the next UFC champion. And I feel like it's well deserved. He's on a huge winning streak, and I feel like he should get the title shot. Like, give Leon the respect. I don't want this to turn out to a Tony Ferguson situation. Leon Edwards done enough, and I think that we should give him the opportunity, even though you and I probably don't think that he's going to win. But who knows? Leon Edwards is a tough guy. He's hungry. He's very athletic. He's fast. He comes from different angles. He's crisp on his feet. So anything can happen, even though Kamaru Usman has that rock hard head. Reminds me of one of our friends, Akbar. His head, I feel like they have similar densities in their head. But it's going to be hard to knock out Usman. But I think Leon Edwards is he's a fair opponent for sure.
So another fight that's actually in the talks is Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns. I believe that's in conversation for January. I know Khamzat wanted to try to get a fight in before December, but January is still a relatively quick turnaround. Props to Burns for taking this fight. No ranked guy has been even considering taking Khamzat, and he sounds like he's down for the challenge. I think, this is going to be a big fight. This fight is going to mean a lot for the division. This is going to be the first big serious test that Khamzat faces that no one can really say anything about. Burns was recently a former title contender. So if Khamzat can make a big statement here, I think a title shot is definitely next for him.
I love this fight. And I feel like it's a good stepping stone for Khamzat Chimaev. I feel like Khamzat Chimaev is going to pass with flying colors. We've seen Gilbert Burns lose to people that he shouldn't have lost to. So Gilbert Burns is susceptible to losing. I know he hasn't lost in a long time besides the loss to Kamaru Usman, but Khamzat Chimaev, if you don't already respect him, you're gonna respect him after he beats Burns because Khamzat Chimaev is just on a different level. It's people dislike him. I feel like in a large part, as sad as it is because he's Muslim. I feel like it's a lot of Islamophobia towards Khamzat because where he comes from because of his beliefs. But as far as his fighting skills, I think that he's one of the best in the world, and he's gonna prove it. Just give him time; he's gonna prove it. And I feel like this is very courageous on Gilbert Burns' part, fighting someone like Khamzat Chimaev. And Burns is a very tough guy for anybody. So we'll see what happens. But I have a lot of confidence in Chimaev.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Chimaev is going to get the job done, but Burns is the man for taking on this fight.
So this week on November 20th, we have another UFC Fight Night headlined by Caitlin Vieira versus Miesha Tate. This is going to be the last UFC card before the Thanksgiving break, before your boys go to Nashville and party with the Cowgirls. But before then, we're going to have to see Miesha Tate make her second return to the octagon. We know that she was off for 5 years. She came back to fight Renee Reneau. She was a dominant performance, third round TKO stoppage for Miesha Tate. But this is going to be a different test for her. Caitlin Vieira is very tough. I know that she's not doing so well recently, but still I feel like it's a very tough fighter, very tough night for anybody. And Miesha Tate, it's gonna be a good fight to see where she's at physically and in terms of her MMA career.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that this is the main event, to be honest. I feel like the co-main event, which we're going to get to in a minute, Chiesa versus Brady, I feel like that would have been a bigger headlining name on the, like on the marquee. But look, I get it. I don't know why, but they're trying to push Miesha Tate and trying to push that star power for whatever it's worth. I don't see it. I'm not very interested in her return, to be honest. She's not going to reclaim the belt. I don't think she's going to do phenomenally. And honestly, Caitlin Vieira, she's a very tough girl. She's a black belt in judo. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and she has some pretty solid hands for a female bantamweight. Look, Miesha Tate, she did all right in her last performance, but like, who's that against, really? Her goal, she said, to come back was to win the belt, and obviously she has to make her way back there. But I don't know. I just don't see Miesha Tate getting the belt, and I'm not sure what this pushes. Everyone's making it out to be like, I don't know, like a Conor McGregor return almost. I want to say it's just like, I don't know. I'm not on board with it.
Yeah, the thing about it is that Miesha Tate, whether she deserves it or not, she has one of the biggest names in female mixed martial arts.
Because of Rousey.
Yeah, because of Rousey. Rousey is another female that has probably a bigger name than Miesha Tate. Amanda Nunes is probably bigger. Cris Cyborg is probably bigger, but right after them, Miesha Tate is right there with them. So she's a big superstar. She's definitely not an amazing mixed martial artist. Like, she's good compared to the competition. But with the Renee Reneau fight, she was a dominant performance, but I didn't really see anything special, to be honest with you. Like, I saw a lot of holes in her game. She looks good. She looks like she's in phenomenal shape. Apparently, in that fight, she was like still breastfeeding or something like that, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I'm excited for her. She has like a cute personality. I feel like she's a good representative of the sport. But Caitlin Vieira is very tough. Black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, as you mentioned. Fought some tough competition in the UFC. Was successful a lot of the times. She's 11-2 in her mixed martial arts career. So it's going to be a tough fight for Miesha Tate. And I wouldn't be surprised if Caitlin Vieira gets her hand raised.
Final pick?
I'm going to go with Vieira.
I agree with you, bro. All right, so let's preview one last fight before we wrap it up. Michael Chiesa is coming back against Sean Brady. Discrepancy in rankings here. Michael Chiesa is currently ranked number 6 at welterweight. Sean Brady is ranked number 14. But Sean Brady's coming in at 14-0, so the guy has a solid record. He's relatively new to the UFC, but he's definitely making a statement. Michael Chiesa, I don't know if to say he's a veteran quite yet, but he's definitely well on his way to be a veteran. Jiu-jitsu specialist. He's a monster when it comes to the ground game. but I'm very intrigued to see this matchup, and I'm honestly not sure which way I'm leaning towards. How do you see this fight going?
I think this fight is gonna go. It's gonna be an exciting fight, but this Sean Brady kid, he impresses me. He's a Cage Fury champion. He defended that belt twice. I believe he won some award with MMA Junkie in the past for his submission. So he does have great submissions himself. I'm looking at his record now. He has 4 wins by submission. He has some pretty notable wins in the UFC as well. So he's not the biggest name, but he's 14-0, defeating people like Jake Matthews, Christian Aguilera, Ismail Nurdiev, and Court McGee in his last 4 fights in the UFC. And prior to that, he was a champion. So tough outing for Michael Chiesa. Sean Brady, he's impressive. He's very impressive, and I think I'm going to have to go with him.
Yeah, look, I think that if the fight goes to the ground, I think Chiesa should have an easy time there. But Brady's a tough dude, man. Like I said, 14-0, 7 of those fights, so about half of his fights have gone to decision, but I'm not sure. I think, look, Chiesa has the experience, so that's going to be a big factor as well. Brady, like I said, is relatively new. He's, I think, a couple of years younger, so he doesn't have the same experience. So that's going to be a big question. I don't know if I really have a dog in this fight, but if you put a gun to my head, I'm probably going to lean to Chiesa just based on the experience.
Yeah, but it's going to be an exciting card. The last card before the Thanksgiving break, before we head out to Nashville with your Cowgirls. So catch this event. It's like these events that are most exciting, as we saw last week. Yeah, very excited for it, man.
Guys, thank you for joining us for round 45. We are planning on having awards again this year for the MMA fighters. We did something quick last year. It was towards the beginning of our podcast, so we didn't really have too much material going on. But what we're planning to do on this year is send out a poll to the audience. So be sure to follow us on social media to know when that's going to be going down. You can participate and vote for who you think should win each of the awards. So we'll be sending that out in the near future. But as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. For any email inquiries, please email info@insidetheclinch.com.